From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!, a capitulation, not a compromise. That's what Senator Russ Feingold is calling a bill to grant immunity to phone companies involved in President Bush's secret domestic spy program. We'll speak with the Wisconsin Democrat. Then legendary comedian George Carlin is dead.
Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation.
We'll hear George Carlin in his own words and look back at his legacy. Then with gas over $4 a gallon, many are talking nuclear power. We'll look back at a man who had very different ideas, R. Buckminster Fuller.
Mr. Fuller is described as an architect. He is that because of his intense concern with living space. But he is something more than an architect because his obsession is with the architecture of the universe.
New York's Whitney Museum is opening exhibition bringing together Buckminster Fuller's work using design to address issues including housing, the environment, and planetary survival. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United Nations Security Council warned Zimbabwe last night a free and fair election is impossible following opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai's withdrawal from the race. The Security Council unanimously condemned what it described as the Zimbabwe government, quote, campaign of violence. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe to postpone Friday's runoff vote.
That conditions do not exist for free and fair elections right now in Zimbabwe. There has been too much violence, too much intimidation. A vote held in these conditions would lack all legitimacy.
Mugabe's ZANU-PF party said the election would go ahead despite Tsvangirai's withdrawal. On Monday, he sought refuge in the Dutch embassy in Harare because of concerns he'd be assassinated. Tsvangirai won the first round of elections in March, but withdrew from the runoff, saying he could not ask people to die voting for him. The Guardian newspaper reports forces aligned with Mugabe have raided the headquarters of Tsvangirai's Movement for Democratic Change and hauled away scores of people. NASA's top climate scientist, James Hansen, warned on Monday the world has long passed the dangerous level for greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and that the Earth is nearing a tipping point. Hansen said, quote, "We're toast if we don't get on a very different path. This is the last chance." He also called for the government to block the construction of new coal-fired plants. During an interview on NPR, Hansen called for the chief executives of oil companies to be tried for their role in spreading disinformation on climate change.
CEOs of these large energy companies are guilty of crimes against humanity if they continue to dispute what is understood scientifically and to fund contrarians, and if they push us past tipping points that end up destroying many species on the planet and having a huge impact on humanity itself.
It was 20 years ago this week when James Hansen first appeared before Congress to warn global warming had already started. The year of Hansen's original testimony, 1988, was the world's hottest year on record. Since then, 14 years have been hotter. In campaign news, John McCain's chief political strategist has apologized after telling a magazine that another terrorist attack on U.S. soil would benefit McCain's candidacy. Charles Black told Fortune magazine, quote, "Certainly it would be a big advantage to him." During the same interview, Black said the assassination of former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto had helped McCain. The New York Times reports the major TV networks have drastically cut back on their coverage of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan during their weeknight newscasts. So far this year, the 3 evening network newscasts have shown a total of 181 weekday minutes of Iraq coverage. That's about 2 minutes of Iraq coverage per network per week. Just 46 minutes has been spent by the 3 networks covering the war in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, in news from Iraq, a local Iraqi council member from the town of Salman Pak shot and killed 2 U.S. soldiers Monday. 4 others were injured. The shooting occurred outside a municipal council meeting. A coalition of human rights groups has accused the U.S. government of withholding money intended to provide clean drinking water to Haiti as leverage to push for regime change in the country. In 1998, the Inter-American Development Bank approved $54 million to help the Haitian government revamp the country's water and sanitation systems. 10 years later, the water projects have yet to be started because the U.S. government aggressively attempted to block the disbursement of the loans. According to the report, the U.S. government derailed the projects in 2001 at a time when it was pushing for the ouster of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, Haiti's democratically elected president. Aristide was eventually overthrown in 2004 in a U.S.-backed coup. In medical news, the U.S. Conference of Mayors has unanimously approved a resolution supporting a single-payer national health insurance system. And the Los Angeles activist and educator Don White has died at the age of 71. He was the local director of CISPACE, the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador, a founder of the Southern California Fair Trade Network, a legal observer with the National Lawyers Guild, and a member of the local board of Pacifica Station, KPFK. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.